Hello, this is the 7.2 podcast where we review movies rated 7.2 on IMDb. With joining me today is Jim and Dawson.
Hi.
Today we watched Quo Vadis and The Fate of Leon. Should I also do the summary real quick?
If you can, yeah, go for it.
Okay. So basically, Quo Vadis, about this Roman soldier. You know, he's this great general. Shacks up with some Christians, falls in love with a Christian woman, and over time becomes convinced that the Christians are correct after Nero murders a bunch of Christians. And they're all really happy about it. And then we have Fatally Cod, which is about like this woman runs an inn that Leon, this infamous Mongolian official, is going to visit. So she hires some assassins. She's working for the rebellion. And is basically them just kind of doing stuff for a while, and they kill Leon.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So,
let's start with the...
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, let's start with the infinitely more funny movie, Quo Vadis.
Was it funny?
I laughed.
I cried. Just out of boredom.
The scene where I particularly lost it is when she's going, you know, there's better than the Roman way where you don't have to enslave people and you don't need to make war on your neighbors. And I was howling so hard.
Yeah.
You know?
Like, so much of this does feel weird, considering like the modern Christian outlook, like how like Christianity is perceived today. It's like we obviously know that Christianity did very little to, pacify the Roman Empire.
Or, not trade slaves for thousands of years.
It was kind of interesting. I was reading like the Byzantine podcast we talked about, where it's like it did soften them to a little bit in that respect. It's like they still had slavery, but it was a lot just the chattel slavery of like ancient Roman times kind of went away.
We're getting a bit meta here. A podcast talking about another podcast, talking about a bad movie.
I don't know. It's weird because like it does feel weird today, this kind of perspective, but also it's not like inaccurate of the time either, right?
Well, and
I suppose.
Well, like, what do you mean?
Christians did end up waging war. Quite a bit of it.
Well, I'm saying like if you were were to just shoot a relationship during that time of like Nero's conquest, like it's not that odd. Like the Christians saw themselves, continue to see themselves however accurately as these like kind of very peaceful converters trying to like make the world a better place and like us into a higher place of spirituality. And a lot of like Christian criticism of the Roman Empire, like in this movie and in the time, even on to relatively modern times, did kind of contain this sort of egalitarian ethos and this pacifistic ethos. And again, especially like the last, like again, this movie was made at a time in which that just really comes across as very hollow, especially like the 50s. But
yeah, I think
you don't have to go.
It's less that it wasn't true. Like for the time period it's set in, it's like a decent statement. It's just it's aged so poorly. Yeah. Not from and like even when it was written in the 50s, which makes it so hollow in my opinion.
Yeah, and that definitely comes. It makes it feel weird in a way that, like this, like the content of the movie doesn't necessarily come across.
I can
it's
see
like the meta aspect.
And it's just, I don't know. There's so many weird like undertones that come from it being made in the 50s. Well, I think it's like early 60s. Well, either way, 50s to
1951.
60s. No, 61 or 51.
51.
Okay.
Yeah, it was shockingly early. I didn't realize color was that old.
I mean, did we watch like the 1948 Three Musketeers, and that was in color?
Yeah.
That was in color, wasn't it?
Get
What
Shrek.
It was
did
in Technicolor. They made a big deal about it being in color.
they kept doing that until like the fucking 70s.
um, but there's just a ton of just weird themes, like the slave who fell in love with the Christian's friend, and they end up like killing themselves.
Yeah, that was weird, but also not in like a particularly Christian way for such a movie so obviously Christian propaganda. It's
I
like,
mean,
what
it's
is this?
I mean, like, she fell in love with someone who wasn't necessarily Christian. Right? Like, at the
Yeah,
end, he was hoping for a Christian death. Right? When he
Well,
which
he
that
killed
fucking
part was
fucked that
weird.
up.
But yeah, like I think she was just smitten by his, rugged, good poetry. Which fair enough, I was too. That
he
character was
was
really good.
he was in my opinion the best character in the movie, so like I get it, honestly. Like
I,
he was so much better than like the main character whose
the main character is that
go ahead.
I was just gonna. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but it's like he's that like sort of male like lead of that era that I fucking hate.
Yes.
Just all arrogance and controlling bravado. Like, oh my god.
It was infinitely more interesting to see the man who died, his like love interest, even if it was really hollow, of just like, I've fallen in love with you, and he's like, oh cool, let's do this, I guess. And then the main character is just like, I'm gonna berate you until you all of a sudden fall in love with me, which was
Yeah, well,
the weirdest turnaround in my opinion. It
the
happened so
movie
fast.
implies at several points that she's in love with him from the very beginning. Like, love at first sight. Like, I don't know what she sees in this man at that point. It's like that bit was like, oh, this had some temptation to go with him
He
after
comes out
he
the
called
gate.
my.
Yeah, like he comes out of the gate, calls her a slave. That's what he does. And she's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, this is the man."
I want to change his heart to Jesus for selfish reasons. Like Jesus.
Yeah, it's yeah. Any part with what's his name, Popius?
I don't remember his name.
The good guy, the guy that was cool.
Okay.
Just those parts of the movie are just like such a cut above every other part of the movie.
Yeah.
What do you mean you didn't like the parts with Nero's poetry?
Well, that's also the Pompeius, where it's like him having obviously terrible singing and poetry, and then Pompeius like going in and being like, "Oh yes, if he said it, I'd call him a genius, but from you, this is quite frankly pedestrian."
I liked that scene because you could tell he's just like, I'm so tired of your shit poetry. Just please try better. Just try harder. And he swings it around as if it's like, you should be doing better, And the emperor is like, yeah, you know what? I should be doing better. I should strive to be better. And it's so. I like that part. It's really good.
See, I took it a bit like similarly cool, but like differently, where it's like he's being like, "Oh yes, I'm pretending to criticize you as a true friend would, but actually, I'm calling you the greatest poet who ever lived," which
Mm.
reflects your ego.
Yeah, I really just thought it was coming for the words of someone who's like, please, for the love of God, dude, say anything else. Try better.
Which I do gotta say, I think Nero was quite well cast.
No, Nero's good.
Mhm.
That whole part of the movie is great.
It's too bad that they stapled an unrelated Christian movie on top of this one.
Yeah.
Which had a lot of fan service, which has the fan service effect of totally gratuitous to anyone not like in on it.
There was a
It's like,
full
oh,
on
Paul
sermon.
doing his thing.
There was a full on sermon in this movie. It was like
Yeah.
20 minutes long.
Had to be, bro.
Yeah, it's like, oh, we got church service coming up. Gotta make it
Chip,
realistic for the times. Let's have a real church service here.
Chip,
Which is perfect.
you were raised a Christian. How'd that church service hold up?
I mean, it was about what I expected from like an actual sermon, I guess. It wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. It just wasn't what I wanted to watch. I wrote in my notes, I did not sign up for this, so.
Hear me
Hope
out.
we got to
though.
see Paul
I will say
do
not
the
nearly
thing
enough,
he's known for.
not nearly enough singing. Like there was singing before and after the sermon, but not nearly enough for it to be realistic.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's a shame because I watched it on
I
Sunday,
did like that.
and I was kind of hoping that would cleanse my soul. That sermon.
I think I also watched this on a Sunday. It
Well,
actually had
Also,
the opposite
did
effect.
anyone?
My soul got worse.
Uh,
What'd you start to say?
I was just saying. Fuck. What was I gonna say? Oh, did anyone think that like Paul was like super fat for the entire movie? And then, like you see him with a cross without a shirt on. It's like, oh shit, he's actually pretty ripped.
You know, I didn't notice.
Because he has like so many layers of clothing on him. It's like he looks.
I mean,
I couldn't help but notice the scene where God speaks to him and he just like leaves his cane standing there and it just stands up. I couldn't help but notice that scene because it was just like so bizarre. And then he walks away without his cane. And then it's like a big reveal at the end of the movie that like it's overgrown or
It's a
something.
miracle.
But like it was just like it was just standing there. Why? How? It was just floating.
see, I honestly assumed that was like part of the Bible. So I was just like,
Oh, I don't know.
it's floating. It's gonna turn into a tree. All right.
So
That
something
seems like
I
something
will
the Bible would do.
I will say, but for the sake of the main character, is I did get a really good sense of his worldview. Like he didn't just go from like, oh yes, I'm, evil Roman man, and then oh no, Christ,
Christ
brought me
compelled.
into light. Yeah, it's like you do get a sense of like how he's someone who believes in that kind of like might makes right in the fairness of that. Like with that bit where it's like it's hers that guy killed his friend. It's like, oh well, good for you.
Yeah.
He knew what he was gonna do.
It seems like at no point does he ever fully become a Christian, which in my opinion makes him like a more compelling character because there's no real point where he's just like all of a sudden, yep, I'm very obviously not Roman anymore. Like he's definitely swaying over to that side of things, but it's more like I still have my original ideals. They're weaker, but it makes him feel more of a realistic character. He's not just like, oh my god, Christianity, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just devotes his
Which-
life immediately.
Yeah, which honestly really surprised me because the scene where he's like, she's like, oh, Jesus, I will always love Jesus the most. And he's like, no, I want you to love me the most. And she's like, that's not a thing in Christianity, dog. It got to be Jesus first. And he gets like super upset and like storms out.
Hmm.
And when that scene started, I was like, oh yeah, here we go. Here's the part where God shines a light upon him and he becomes a Jesus fan. And then he ended up storming out of there. I was like, huh. That was a bit of a nuance I did not expect.
There was
You
there
know?
was another moment where I was expecting that too, when they were imprisoned, and they're all like they've like all lost their hope and whatnot, and it cuts over to him and it like slow zooms into his face, and then it just cuts to them dying. I was expecting him to come out and be like, you know what? I may not be a full Christian, but let's die with honor or something like that. But no, he just keeps his mouth shut and then they die.
Yeah, it is weird, like how many excuses they had to jam Paul into the story.
I mean, honestly, this is definitely a movie that I feel like if you cut out like a lot of it, like half of it, you could actually have like a very compelling movie.
Yeah.
The components are there. It just doesn't. It's just like ancillary bullshit gets added to it that just detracts.
You know,
If we
a
cut
very
out the
good
main
argument for the power of
character,
the editor.
if we cut out the main character,
You kind of need him. Like he's like without him, you just have a plot of Nero being a bastard for a while.
Hey, let's start by cutting out the actual just physical sermon in the movie, and let's see what's left after
Just
that.
cut out Paul
Did
and the
that-
sermon, and honestly, you'd
did
have
that
a
sermon
interesting
add
movie.
anything actually?
Converted me to
No,
Christianity.
fan service. It was fan
Okay.
service. Like Paul was fan service in this movie.
Fair.
I'm pretty sure
yeah.
that other guy was also a apostle, right? I forget his name.
Yeah, he was Peter.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
just
but like it's crazy because like it's a pretty long scene at the sermon. But I think if you just removed the entire scene, the movie would be the exact same. Lose nothing.
Oh, 100%.
yeah. Like I say, if you move Paul, nothing would change because all he does is come back, marry them, and then get
Oh
crucified.
yeah, I forgot he just comes back and dies. Yeah. Wow.
So, I actually watched this movie with a film buff because when you live in Denmark, there's not a lot else to do. So and he actually had some interesting insights on the attitudes of the golden age of American filmmaking. And one of the things he mentioned was uh, this was made back in a time where editing was kind of hard, where it is like everything was crazy expensive, including the film, and cutting something out just kills the soul because you're literally cutting out a a $50,000 scene if you've already shot it. So apparently these bloated, totally like under-edited epics were not uncommon back in the 50s.
Well,
It,
yeah. I
it
mean,
also helped
this is very much in the vein of stuff like Lawrence of Arabia and Cleopatra and Gone with the Wind, right? Like those sort of like very long. They spent like $1 billion on it, but it's like you get like these like massive scenes that you just couldn't see anywhere else.
and not for nothing, I haven't watched any of those movies.
Me neither.
So, kind of started with the worst American Golden Age film.
Like, I mean, those are the big epics. Like, I don't. Cleopatra's the one that infamously like kind of ruined movies for like decade, but
Why is that?
it's like flopped. It's like the studio like went under. It's like everyone's like, oh, this is not as good of as good of an investment as we thought it was.
Interesting.
It's not nearly as guaranteed. I do hate business people. They're so reactionary and scared shitless all the time. Like, have confidence in yourself. Damn.
To be fair, like when you're investing like billions of dollars into something with like no guarantee, you might be a bit reactionary yourself.
Nah, man. Money was given to me by God to spend. So let's do this.
There's two things I want to say. First of all, Pompeius, best character in the movie, if that was his name.
It definitely wasn't, but I don't remember his name.
Really like that scene where he's like, you're like pacing across his room and like talking about how it's like, man, I could have, had I thought about it at the time, I could have just gone out there and been like, nah, Nero's about to lie to you guys. He's totally responsible for the fire, and you need to like kill his ass and bring this other guy in as emperor.
Yeah.
And like that felt super real to me. It's like but he's like, oh man, but I just got so used to being a cynical observer of history, I didn't think that I might actually be, an actor in it.
His name was Petronius.
Oh, close enough like
Petronius.
that.
And
Yeah,
also,
I liked that scene as well. It's just showing him actually and it's not the first moment where like, oh, this guy's actually good, but it's like one of the moments where it just kind of cements that like this guy's okay, you know.
yeah.
Well,
Also,
and
him killing himself was fucking stupid. Hated that.
Technically, he didn't kill himself. He got the doctor to come in and kill him. Like, doctor, please.
by Colorado standards, that is suicide.
Also, it was just kind of stupid with the whole. It's like, oh, there's like this. I listened to a podcast a while ago called like Good Christian Fun. It talks about like a bit more modern Christian like movies that have come out. One of the things that like I noticed in that was like Christians really feel the need to like have someone convert. Like they don't want someone to die without having converted to Christianity, especially if it's like a character you're supposed to kind of like. So it's like no matter how like kind of nonsensical at the end, they kind of have to be like, oh, actually Christianity, maybe that's a way.
Yeah,
Well, that's not what he does, is it? He just like
basically.
straight up kills himself, frees a single slave, who then decides, nah, I'm gonna die too, because like that makes sense when you've been nearly freed. Which, by the way, it would have been such an amazing point for her to say, I'm no longer your slave. You can't tell me what to do, because like he tries ordering her to live after he dies. So it'd have been so awesome if she called him by his name, as a free woman, and chose to die with him. And they just didn't do that. I think because the filmmakers forgot she was freed. So that was actually kind of frustrating to me. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like that would have been a much better scene with those changes.
I couldn't help but keep thinking about the fact that he left her everything, like his house, all of his remaining slaves, and then they both died. And so I get like it didn't end up mattering because the first thing that Nero says is burn down his house. But like I couldn't help but thinking like as like there were like 8 people there watching them die, and if I was there I'd be like, hold up. You both die? Where's this going?
Hey, do you mind cutting me into that will? Like she's already died. Like, can I get a
Like
cut of that?
it was super nice for you to give it to her, but now that she's on the way out too,
Think about me, just say it.
Dude, I don't need everything you're gonna give her. Just like the house.
Like there's a few people here. We can split it up. It's fine. Also, I love Nero finding out because he gets the letter that Petronius wrote him, and he's like, "Oh, my best friend ever."
Oh, see, I really like it. The first thing is like, wait, I didn't give him permission to do that. How dare he?
Yeah.
And then he gets a letter. He's like, oh, my best friend ever. Then he actually reads it.
Oh my
Nero
god.
was good. Petronius is good.
And I
The Empress was also really good. I like the Empress as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where she's like, I wouldn't kill someone I hated. I'd kill just everyone else. 'Cause I don't hate them. I want you to suffer.
Well, what was the original thing she said? She's like, if I hate you, I don't kill you, or something like that. Or is it if I love you, I don't kill you?
No, if I hate you, I don't. Or it seems like such a waste to kill someone you hate. After all, when they die, they can no longer suffer. I only kill
Fair.
people I don't hate because I
Who
don't
gives a
care whether
shit?
or not they suffer.
Yeah. Which, yeah, like that's such a cool line. The payoff just was so comparatively weak.
Yeah.
Where it's just
Okay.
like,
The fucking the girl like who was the head of the harem. What was her deal?
she was a Christian, bro.
No, she was like sort of a Christian. She was like, I'm not really a Christian, but I'm kind of like with the Christians. But also, I'm in love with Nero to the point where it's like, hey, I'm gonna come back and be with you at your darkest moment. And she was,
I
and
kind
then
of
she
thought that
gets
was
him
a
to kill
situation she
herself.
was forced in. Wait, when did she kill herself? What?
No, she
No, she
didn't.
killed
She got
Nero.
Nero to kill himself.
Yeah,
Well, she did
she
full
stuck
on
around to
just
help out the Christian cause
She did
and
full
just
on
be like,
just
kill
murder
yourself.
him, right? Like he couldn't kill himself, so she did it.
Did she? I guess she had her hand on a blade, but I think he
Like,
I don't know.
oh, well, like he definitely had his hands there, but he's like, I can't do it, and she's like, all right, bitch, do it like this.
You got to commit to it.
Yeah, I just did not understand that character because I kind of liked her, but I did not
Yeah.
understand what was going on in her head.
I mean, to me, like maybe I'm adding context that wasn't there, but like after she drew the fish, like the attitude towards her from the other slavers seemed really like conscriptatory, and it seemed
But
like
it seemed like in the context of the movie, she was genuinely in love with Nero.
Yeah, it did come across that way.
I assumed that was like fake pretensions because Nero crazy bastard.
Yeah, like as much as I didn't understand why someone would like the main character, I really don't get why someone would like be in love with Nero.
He got that money, yo.
Especially after all that he did.
I'm not saying she's a gold digger. In fact, I'm not really sure what I'm saying she is. She's just weird.
Like I get that if you're truly in love with someone, you can maybe overlook some of the things that he did. But man, he did a lot of bad shit. It's really hard to be like, yeah, I still. Oh, you're killing them too. Oh, I still. Oh, they're gone too now, and it's just like, how many people need to die before you're like, maybe I don't love this person?
You know, I think that's a better question for the actual real human being who married Hitler. Just saying.
Fair.
I don't know. Hitler. I don't know. I wasn't there, but like he does come across as like charismatic in a certain way. I
mean,
don't.
Nero must have been somewhat charismatic to become emperor, right? It's not
Well, he
like
was like the
this
son of
came
the
out-
previous
in the
emperor.
movie.
Yeah.
Definitely did not come across. He did not come across as charismatic at all. He
Well,
came
'cause they
across
had
as a
that-
whiny little baby.
Which I mean, that's what the movie makers wanted, but like they had that huge overdrawn scene where it was just like the speech from Nero that people loved.
What?
Like where it's right after uh, the girl goes into hiding, and right before the sermon, where it's like where they juxtapose like a Roman quote unquote sermon and a Christian sermon. Where like the Roman sermon was like all bombast and people cheering and shouting um and like there's a chariot race, I think,
Yeah.
and it was like crazy decadent. And then you juxtapose that with the Christian sermon, which was all quiet and like dignified.
I
And
mean, I did like that speech, but it didn't make me like Nero more.
well, I mean, no, but to the people, but it clearly communicated that the people loved him, and
Yeah, I
helped
guess
explain why they just
it doesn't
immediately.
explain why she loved him, who knew him personally, and he was a child.
Uh, fair enough. But
Also, I was going to change the subject, so if you want to.
oh well, I was just gonna say, you know, a couple good moments is all it takes to fall in love with someone. So, yeah.
Let's get just talk about how, like, Nero is like a very common punching bag in these sorts of movies, like Christian literature and stuff. I do find it like never go after like people like Diocletian, because Nero, everyone agrees, was kind of an asshole. Like Diocletian did kind of similar shit, but he also like reunited their own empire and was like, besides the whole persecution thing, a solid emperor. That would
Oh.
require like a bit of nuance and shit.
Someone argue his prosecution was him being a good emperor. Like, because they did end up taking the empire, but
But yeah.
well,
So anyway.
I think it's exactly that. Like, Americans in particular have a tendency to identify with the Roman Empire
Mhm.
because, in fairness, we do operate relatively similarly. So I think like anyone anyone who's considered a good emperor besides murdering Christians, I think you're gonna have a hard time convincing Americans to hate that person. You know, even back when we were crazy Christian.
I don't know. It'd be like to me, it just seemed like it had a bit of nuance. Like, yeah, this is a man who persecutes a minority. Like, it's almost like a metaphor for America itself. It's like it's a man like who persecutes a minority, but also has these other like positive traits that are like a move forward for humanity as a whole. But then they got this like they just really are murdering those people.
I don't know. I think it's the same reason why no one's made a Thomas Jefferson movie yet.
Enough.
He was in
The
Hamilton.
embodiment of American hypocrisy. Hamilton's kind of cool though.
Yeah,
Wait, who's kind of cool?
I enjoyed watching
Hamilton.
Hamilton.
Like Jefferson.
Mm.
Jefferson is just so much like, even by American standards, holy fucking shit, is he him? Whereas like he like originally wrote into the Declaration of Independence, like, yeah, they like brought slavery, which was a huge thing, and it was like, we owned slaves, right? I don't think this is gonna be a good argument from us.
Wait, and I just realized, Jim, are you wearing a man bun?
It's more of a ponytail because it's not quite long enough to be in a man bun. But yeah,
Someday,
Nice.
he has dreams of the
Someday.
stars.
someday. Yeah, I almost pointed it out before we started filming, just so you didn't bring it up.
You fool.
But anyway, you guys want to talk about the Fatally Cod?
Let's talk about the
Sure.
Fatally Con.
Yeah,
No.
so
I'll let you start.
this movie bored the shit out of me. It felt like almost, at least the first half, it felt like almost like a TV show where it's like people came in, they did a thing, they got beat up, and they left. And this happened like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, I
It's like,
totally see where you're coming from. I actually quite enjoyed it just because it was like it was definitely different, but it was really interesting to see like I guess just like that was to show like a normal day at this establishment, I guess. Which was
what did they do before they hired the 3 martial artists or the 4 martial artists?
just get robbed, I guess.
That's probably why they hired the martial artists.
Well, I think did they not reopen because they were closed for a little bit at the very beginning.
I guess they just kept getting robbed.
Yeah, yes. I think this was them reopening, being like, okay, we're gonna hire martial artists as waitresses, which was really cool. I liked all the female characters in this. I thought felt fairly progressive.
It was fairly progressive. I did have feel like there was a distinct lack of personality amongst the characters.
Hmm.
Like I think the 4 server girls, you could switch them around as much as you wanted. I just would not notice.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
And-
were very much reacting to the situation around them rather than like doing anything extremely proactive.
yeah, their characters are
Except for
fine, but like,
the one in green, she was like solely comes up with a plan towards the end of the film that actually gets her killed, I believe. Like it was
Oof.
her idea, and like, sure, I guess she's still reacting to it, but she's more proactive in that.
Yeah, like I kind of
Her
forgot
plan
that
was
she originated
bad,
that plan.
to be fair. She breaks in to Lee Khan's room, gets caught immediately, and goes, "I'm changing the bed sheets." Obviously, first question, where are the bed sheets? And she says, "I forgot them." Flawless plan. Like she
You
should,
know.
like I figured her plan was more than just I'll go in there, you know? But apparently that's all it was.
Yeah. Like the head lady had a bit of personality, and like the accountant did,
Hmm.
and Lee Khan, sure, also a sister. I like the sister, but like yeah, just most of the people we spend most of this movie with, I just did not like. I didn't dislike that. They're just nothing. They're just Wasp was there, no Petronius there to really like liven it up.
Well, and especially towards the beginning, it kind of felt like a slice of life anime.
Really, really did.
And and I think that's part of the reason. Because Jim, you've seen a couple in your day, right?
I've seen a few, yeah.
So I feel like you're better equipped to get through that first part. Because the first time I tried to watch it, I actually fell asleep. I was like, oh my
Really.
god.
I mean, I guess it helps. It helped that it was in a different language. I had to pay attention, you know. I have to be reading the entire time. So it's easier for me to get through something with subtitles, I feel like, because I can't look away. So I have to pay
I
attention.
spent at least the first half. I spent the entire time thinking, "Man, I wish I could do something else right now."
To be fair, though, I did do something else the entire, like, at the same time. So
How did you pull that off?
it was something I could do mindlessly. I didn't really need to look at it, but it
Hmm.
helped.
Okay, fair enough.
Also,
Like,
Doug, do you want to continue?
well, I was just gonna say, like, I'm honestly kind of conflicted because it's not like this was a 3 hour long movie. So,
Kind of felt like it was.
I'm getting there. I'm getting there, Jenner. Oh, so like, I'm kind of tempted to say, well, cut all this stuff, but to a certain degree, it had to feel like a real bar existing in a real time and place, not
Yeah.
just a place to assassinate Lee Khan.
But I mean, that kind of in the context of the story was all it was. Like it was just now getting reopened, and they had hired all these people specifically for murdering Lee Khan.
Mm. Yeah, I
Like
guess.
it kind of would have improved the movie a bit if there was like a bit beforehand. It was like, all right, this guy's coming here, and we want to assassinate him. How do we do this? And they're like, well, it's like that old closed down bar over there that the lady was CO'd. Like maybe if we like turn that into like the most respectable institution in town, which not a high bar, maybe we can get him to come there.
You're right.
I
That wouldn't
guess
be a high bar.
even the weird part is that, like, they find out that Lee Khan wants to come here, and they're like sure that he'll stay in this bar while it's not even open. They're like so sure of it. They're like, yeah, he will want to stay in this bar, and they're like, okay, let's make a bar.
Yeah, like I think I was saying this beforehand, but like this is just so clearly a B movie. It's clear that they had there's 20 guys. They had like maybe $1 million in modern money, and they're like, let's just film what we can. We rented this room. We got like 2 hours in front of that temple. Let's make sure it counts.
I did really enjoy watching the fight scenes. I don't know about you.
I didn't. They felt. I this is honestly a thing. I really don't like Chinese movie fight scenes. I felt this way in like Waking Tiger as well. I don't like the floaty, like, they just jump around everywhere. Look, I much prefer like the Japanese, like more physical stuff.
I gotcha. Yeah, there were definitely moments during the fight where I was just like, okay, that edit is bizarre. Especially towards the end, there's a scene where someone like jumps off a like small cliff, and it shows this short clip of them falling from 3 different angles, and so it's just like, and then someone immediately follows, jumps off again, and they do the exact same thing. So like there are moments like that where it's just like jarringly bad, but like for most of it, I was able to just kind of sit back and enjoy it. Like it felt fun.
Yeah, like, you know, they're jumping all over the place. They're like doing crazy kung fu.
Yeah.
You know.
It honestly,
Also,
I
I
would
said
describe
Japanese.
this movie
I don't know
as
if that's true.
fun. Like, like you do have to get past like a 20-30 minute intro scene where it's just, you know, them running a bar. But to be fair, that is
it's like an hour.
I mean, the movie's only an hour 50. It's
Yeah.
not that long.
It's an hour, and then Lee Khan shows up, and the plot finally starts to get going.
But like to be fair, during that you get intercut with scenes showing off the waitress girls, and like what they do. Like, I mean, you said they didn't have much personality, and that's true, but they do have like special talents at least. Like one of them was good at pickpocketing. Another one, I guess it's not a talent, but another one was really short-tempered. Not a talent, but yeah. And like they had enough differences to them to like you could kind of tell them apart. It helped that they were color coded. But like you get scenes where it's just like it's kind of fun seeing them, you know, just blatantly steal from customers and then try and figure out how to fix it, and then them getting robbed and they have to fight. I don't know. Like it wasn't that unenjoyable, I feel like.
You slice of life anime lover.
There were literal fight scenes in there. There were multiple. It was so fun.
I will say about this movie, costuming, great fucking work, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Just all the outfits in this are excellent.
Yeah.
Have you considered you just like the Chinese aesthetic, Chandler, when it comes to
distinct?
clothes?
However, they didn't have like that stupid hat with the things that come down. Like, I mean, also
the crown.
yeah. That being said, like I do like Chinese outfits and stuff, but like, you know, you could still do that. It look cheap, right?
Mm-hmm.
But this just, you know, there's like a lot of color in the outfits. It's just good looking.
Which isn't the best sign for a movie's review when you're complimenting the seamstress.
Not necessarily. I think they did a good job. I mean, I agree with Chandler. I don't necessarily think that's my highest compliment, personally, but.
But I mean, that's kind of the thing. It's kind of sounding like it's Chandler's highest compliment.
Yeah, fair.
Let me think for a moment. Yeah, no, I think it is.
Yeah, see.
I felt like I found myself enjoying a lot of the characters. Like the guy who just couldn't really sing, but everyone seemed to think that he could.
Yeah, I was thinking it's like I don't know what the standards of like Chinese like musical talents are, but is this good? I really have no way of judging.
Yeah, honestly, me neither.
Well,
Like,
I
it's
can
like
judge a little bit.
Oh, I don't know. I just always have a problem with like slower music, which what he was saying. I just don't really like.
The thing is, he never kept a consistent tone. He was literally just shouting at customers while hitting a metronome.
No, he was terrible
like-
at that. That
Oh,
was
yeah.
awful.
That I don't even think they were trying for that to be good, but like later in the movie, he like sings for Lee Khan, and they're like, "Wow, this is great." And like the like
yeah,
the instrument that he's playing sounded okay. It wasn't like superb. Definitely wouldn't like abandon like the thing I came here to get, you know, to give people enough time to steal it, you know?
Well, you gotta keep in mind, this was back before music existed in the sense that it does now.
That's fair. But like for an emperor, you think
I
he's
don't think he's
better.
an emperor.
Or
I think he's
whatever
like
he
a
is.
vizier. He's like the true power behind the throne, or whatever it is.
He would have access to better music though. That said.
Yeah.
Being a member of the court, yeah, probably.
It's like this is definitely not the
Well-
best music he's ever heard. And I guess he never really claims that. He's just like, music, sure.
It's like, it's
I get to
alright.
listen to
His
this once a
sister
year.
seems really into it.
Was that his sister?
Yeah.
Oh, definitely just thought it was his wife.
I mean, is there
Too
any
bad.
practical difference?
No, it didn't matter.
So, makes sense.
I will pose this question. These fights or the fights in The Three Musketeers, which do you prefer?
Three Musketeers.
Really?
Yeah, no,
but like,
cannot.
I don't even care which one you're talking about, even if it's a bad one.
They were both bad.
Yeah,
There was a bad one though.
and I mean that is true at least. So, wow, you really do not like the wire style of fighting.
No, I fucking hate it. I really do.
Damn, because like those sword fights were barely fights. They looked more like spastic jerking than like.
I mean, this is some fucking physicality to it. This shit of this just. It just felt like nothing was happening for 90% of it, and then someone died. It's like, all right, sure.
You're a man of conviction. I'll give you that.
I felt
'Cause
like
I would-
a lot of the times the fights ended very abruptly, which I actually liked in this, where it was just like you see these cool scenes and then all of a sudden, ooh, there's stakes now. This random character is dead now.
Honestly, the death toll in this way higher than I thought it was. Like
Yeah.
both higher and lower than I thought it was gonna be.
Yeah. Part of me, as we started seeing people start to die, part of me was like, is anyone gonna live? I don't know, because like none of these characters are gonna like come back for a sequel regardless. Like they can die.
Which I mean, there's something to be said about that. Like, you have to be doing something right as a movie maker when people are like, "Oh my god, like anything is possible."
Yeah, and that was
thought the
cool.
fights
I
were
did
intense.
appreciate
I thought they had stakes.
Like I like that the person they chose to live. Like they're I guess the main, like the headmistress and the other guy live, which I guess he kind of expected. But
I
it's
think
like,
one of the waitresses lived too.
yeah, it was really not the one it's like the one who I had the least attachment to by far, like the blue one.
It was the only one that didn't have like a notable talent, I think, or like a notable characteristic about themselves.
Just anything.
Yeah.
Because the acrobatic one just died. She's kind of my favorite, but
Or I
her
guess
stuff seemed kind of impressive.
It was the short-tempered one who lived, right?
No, because she died. She like got. What happened to her?
Because
I definitely remember her dying because I thought she was gonna be the one who lived, until she wasn't.
right. I don't remember one.
Also, short tempered did not fucking come up at all.
No, she did not.
They say it, and then she's just there.
And then as soon as Lee Khan shows up, she puts that away. She's like, which actually, you know what? That shows like the power dynamic between her and Lee Khan, to where she's she's willing to yell at customers, which like knowing customer service now, like you got to have balls to do that. But obviously she's not going to yell at Lee Khan, right? And so it just kind of shows the gravity of the situation.
Except for she's not even the one who like when those guys, the soldiers came in and tried to like rob the place, like dine and dash. She wasn't even the one who was like super mad. Was like, oh, pay up, you assholes. And that was plenty of other people. Like besides that first scene, I don't know if she ever got angry in this movie.
Interesting point.
Also, at the end of the movie, the inn burns down. Who burned it down?
I assume they did, because now they're wanted criminals.
That's what I was assuming as well. It wasn't necessarily clear because it kind of the way it's shot or cut, it looks as if they're rocking up to the inn and it's on fire, and it's just like I thought you killed everyone already.
I guess I'm doing something new.
Also, so at the beginning they have like those spies there, right? You're like, scouting out the place for Lee Khan's survival. I don't get the whole killing them thing and why that's like no one at the place is like, oh my gosh, all our guys died. Maybe this is a good meeting to have. No one's reporting back. Maybe we should
Yeah.
do it up the road at the other town.
I figured that would come up. Like they needed to kill them, I guess, because Lee Khan wouldn't have come if he knew that all the waitresses were kung fu masters, basically.
Whoa.
Or whatever. Like he wouldn't have come if they had reported back and be like, those robbers you sent got bodied, bro. Like
Like,
True, like they got fists.
yeah. So I guess like narratively it's just like, hey, we can't have these people report back and let's ignore it. They succeeded. But in reality it's like they would have noticed that no one came back to them.
like if that isn't just the most suspicious thing,
Yeah.
I don't know what is.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. I didn't even think of that. Holy shit. Like, talking about
Thinking,
plot
wait,
holes.
they're just gonna murder him? What's the guy gonna think?
Like,
I think even
man,
one of them was like, I won't tell them anything. Like he was begging for his life, being like, yeah, I'll just say that you guys were good. And they could have done that. They could
I
have
mean-
tried to convince him, but they're like, nope, we're gonna kill you.
I don't know about you, but I would not have trusted that guy's word.
I wouldn't have trusted him either, but like, maybe it would have worked.
It's like
better.
a more plausible way out than what they went with.
Yeah. I guess
Yeah, that's
when
fair.
Lee Khan first shows up, doesn't he ask if they've been robbed recently? Doesn't he bring that up?
Yeah, except for
I guess maybe I kind of got the impression that Lee Khan kind of knows, but he's just like, you ain't gonna do it. What are you gonna do?
I don't know. You kind of get the person early on, but later on he's like, What's going on here? I'm very confused. It's like, what would they want? My letters, maybe? Jewelry? Wait a minute, the map. Like, huh. Also, you could pick up the movie this. It's like, oh yes, he's not going to show up with a big entourage. He likes to travel incognito, so we don't have to pay those extras. If you know what I mean.
You know, so Lee Khan, this was this during the Warring States period?
No, this was after the Mongol conquest.
Right, because they had a whole intro talking about the Mongol conquest.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was trying to decide whether or not I thought this movie had like nationalist overtones. Especially since it's filmed right when the CCP was taking over.
It was filmed in Hong Kong, though.
In Japanese?
What? No,
In
Chinese.
in Chinese?
Yeah.
Hong Kong is in China.
Well, yeah, but like, especially the culture of the time. I'm surprised that the British didn't force them to have like an English version too.
Why would they? This movie, they're not making this movie for English people. English people have better things to watch. They got James Bond. James Bond's coming out of this.
See, I'm not convinced that's better.
I mean, it's
in
more
terms of
production
spy
value.
stories, I think I'd prefer this to most James Bond films, and especially the two we watched on this podcast.
I would watch either of those any day of the week.
I think this is, barring the movies that I had already seen coming into this podcast, this is like one of the only ones that I feel like I would actually like recommend to someone. I feel like,
Really?
yeah, this movie's pretty good. You might like it.
Like if you ever meet a cinephile.
if a film buff ever comes over, it's just like, hey, have I got the movie?
Want to see a movie that I'm fairly confident you have never seen.
Exactly.
And I mean, it wasn't just so unbearably terrible like Quo Vadis.
I think I
I'll
enjoyed.
give it that.
Like, I don't know. They both, to me, felt about the same length, despite the fact that Quo Vadis, or by quote, Quo Vadis. Because this is fucking Latin, not fucking French, Austin.
I'm not pronouncing it French.
Yes, you are.
I'm pretty sure it's actually just Darth Vader. Maybe I
Well,
wrote
that
it
explains
down
so
wrong,
much.
but
Yeah, the fact that they felt the same length in Quo Vadis was way, like, double the length says to me that I liked Quo Vadis a lot more.
Hmm,
It's just,
fair enough.
they had characters in Quo Vadis. God damn it.
Which
I
actually,
will say I liked Petronius. I like Petronius more than like the average character in Lee Khan. Like he had more depth.
well, but did you like Petronius more than your favorite character in the Fatal Econ?
Maybe. But like Petronius
Who's your
is
favorite character in the Fiddly Code?
probably the innkeeper. I really liked her.
She's alright.
Yeah.
She had most of the personality to go around.
Yeah.
It's all those girls.
But like the thing is that Petronius is the best character in. I mean, Petronius is the best character in Quo Vadis,
Exactly.
but there are so many characters that drag the movie down. I feel like that are actively bad, whereas in Fate of Lee Khan, it's like they're not that bad. It's just that they're not fully developed, and so it's like the average character's up here, whereas like the spread of Quo Vadis goes pretty far down, in my opinion.
And
Might
that is
start
kind of
a
an
little
interesting philosophical question. Do you go for the highs and lows, where a character you actually like, a bunch of just shit tier characters, or do you go with a bunch of mediocre like mid tier characters?
My hot take is that if a character is annoying, I do not like the movie.
That's an extremely hot take, Jim.
If you force me to watch someone who's annoying, it's like not a bad character. Like Nero was fine, but if you force me to watch someone who's just actively like, bring down my enjoyment.
You're talking about the main character in Quo Vadis?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I'm not gonna say you're wrong, but yeah, I don't know. Like, because there's quite a few characters in Quo Vadis that I enjoy. Potimius, whatever his name was. Petronius. He was cool. I liked the Emperor. I liked his wife.
I mean,
Lygia sucked.
yeah. In Fate of Lee Khan, I liked the innkeeper. I liked the bookkeeper. I ended up liking the servant, kind of.
He improved.
Waitresses. He definitely got better. He got more bearable to watch. When he was first introduced, it's like, dude, what are you doing?
Please stop. Something I did appreciate about the Fairly Khan was like it's a common like trope of movies up to like the 90s to have like the thing where it's like, all right, you have the male characters, the female characters on the other side, and like it's good. We could try it at the end where it's like the male characters fight the male characters and the female characters fight the female characters. They did not do that in this. It was very like a mosh pit of fight.
Wait, that was the thing that ever happened? Huh.
Yeah, I guess I actually can't say that I can think of anything where they separate the female and male characters.
Most recently, I've seen it was like Fast or Furious 6, or whatever.
Oh, yeah,
Why are you watching
I
that?
stay far away from those movies.
It was alright, apparently. I mean, I watched it. I was like,
He was
sure.
alright, apparently.
But like that was the one where it's like people were like, it felt like people were really turning around the Fast and Furious franchise. It's like, oh yeah, this series actually like came around as like kind of cool. It's like, I'll give it a shot. I was like, I'm not gonna keep watching these.
Yeah, because keep in mind that's the good one apparently.
Well, they made more after that, which all got fine reviews. Didn't watch them.
I feel like when you watch those movies, you kind of just shut your brain off a little bit and enjoy fast cars, you know? To come from someone who has never seen one of them. That's like the impression that I get. It's like if I really would just want to like watch a fast car chase, like go watch that.
I don't know. Like, part of what I feel like that movie does right over this one is they do have like distinct, kind of memorable characters. Like, I think his name's Vincent. Like, the guy's all about family and cars. Like, you get a sense, like, kind of what he's about, what he believes, kind of
I
what
thought
he's
every
working
character
for.
What is
was
his
about
movie
family and
rating?
cards.
Is it rated
Oh, I'm
7.2?
sorry.
Oh, get correct upon, fam.
As far as I'm concerned, this movie actually doesn't exist.
Shit, you right?
Well, that's a great set because like it's been an hour, right?
Yeah. Do you want to
Yeah,
give our
let's
ratings?
wrap this shit up. I'm giving both a solid below 7.2.
Yeah, me too.
Oof.
I'm giving Quo Vadis below. I'm tempted to give Fate of Leecon above, partly out of spite, but I'm just going to give it at 7.2.
Alright.
I thoroughly had a good time watching this movie.
You know what?
Hey,
That's fair
no
enough.
judgment.
You don't need me to tell you what I think of Failey Con. Just everything else.
And with that, bye.
Bye.
Thanks for watching.